Hello, this is Tony Anderson. Here I'll give you a brief overview of what you'll study this term, and I'll cover some of the basic concepts from Chapter 1 of your textbook. I won't do this every week, but I wanted to provide this for you this week because it is your first exposure to the concepts that you'll learn in this course. I will provide additional videos on occasion for any material that is a bit complex or for which you might benefit from some additional explanation. Before you continue with this video, I want to ask you, how much do you already know about participatory culture? There is a way to find out. There is a self-assessment in this week's module. It will assess your current knowledge of some of the content that you will learn in this course. If you haven't already taken the self-assessment, press pause on this video, go take the assessment, and then come back to finish watching the video. The term participatory culture was first popularized by a scholar from MIT known as Henry Jenkins. He has since moved on to USC in Southern California, and one of your videos this week is a TED Talk that he gave a few years ago. You will also be reading one of his articles this week. So what exactly is participatory culture? It is sometimes thought of as an opposing concept to consumer culture. It is a culture in which private individuals do not act as consumers only, but also act as contributors or producers, otherwise known as prosumers. Participatory expression may manifest as memes, fan fiction, mashups, and YouTube reviews or commentary, among many other formats. When people or groups work together on a particular form or product, like a wiki, then they engage in collaborative problem solving. Participatory circulation is the means through which communication may be spread. This can include blogs, video blogs, also known as vlogs, podcasts, and some forms of social media. Some of the most popular apps or platforms that involve that kind of participation include Facebook, Snapchat, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and so on. Fan fiction creators were one of the first communities to showcase that the public could participate in pop culture by changing, growing, and altering TV show storylines during their runtimes, as well as strengthen a series' popularity after the last episode aired. Some fan fiction creators develop theories and speculation, while others create new material outside of the confines of the original content. Fans expand on the original story, putting the characters falling in love within these series through different adventures and sexualities. These communities are composed of audiences and readers from around the world of different ages, different backgrounds, all coming together to develop theories and possibilities about TV shows, books, films, celebrities, and more. People no longer blindly absorb and consume what large media corporations distribute. Today, many consumers also produce their own content. So what you see here are some forms of participatory culture. Fandoms, fan communities, various kinds of social media, which also can be a platform for some of the other things. Video games, you may have heard of massively multiplayer online games or MMOs. That is definitely a participatory culture. Video gaming in general, from the get-go, when we used to have arcades, was a participatory culture that way too. And today we also have virtual reality and virtual worlds. There may be other forms of participatory culture that I have not listed here. So put on your thinking caps. Can you think of any others? So, as just mentioned, there are many forms of participatory culture. And I have found it difficult to find a single textbook or a single, or I need a collection of different textbooks and articles to teach this topic. So you have a textbook on strictly media fandom, but that does not cover everything that we need to look at. Also, we are going to look at social virtual reality. It's sort of a combination of virtual reality, social networking, and a massively multiplayer online game. So, and there are really no books to go along with that. So I'll be providing as much support as I can through instructions and videos like this one to talk about that. So we are kind of going to be exploring, we're tackling participatory culture from a couple of different angles. And in fact, on the last one there, the social virtual reality, some of the ways that you're going to learn about that are through watching YouTubers who are in essence video blogging or vlogging about a social virtual reality platform. So you are also going to be applying and practicing the very concepts that you are learning about. So your two projects that will go along with those two strands or two case studies of how we are going to study participatory culture will have outcomes. These are the two projects that you will do as outcomes of having studied those things. The first is an autoethnography, which I will explain in detail. There's going to be, or there is, a whole other video about this, so I don't want you to worry about what that is right now. You're going to get plenty of scaffolding and projects or little mini projects, little assignments to help you along to create that autoethnography by the time that it is due. And the other thing is you're going to create a blog. And this is not just any blog. This is a blog specifically about your experience with the social virtual reality platform that we are going to look at in this class. So we've done a lot of abstract talk here. So let's take a look at some specific examples of participatory cultures. Most of you are probably familiar with the TV series The Big Bang Theory. The male characters on that show were notorious and unashamed fanboys, and they were fans of many things. In this image here, we see them dressed up as comic book characters, and somehow they've also gotten their neighbor Penny in on the fun too. There is an example in the series of the characters doing their own fanish version of rock, paper, scissors, which they call rock, paper, scissors, lizard, Spock. I have provided a link in the description or beneath this video so that you can watch a clip of that if you like. This clip also includes some other fanish examples too, such as Sheldor. You can watch up to minute 2:05 to see those two examples. Feel free to continue on with the rest of it if you like. And here is another example of the characters enacting one of their fandoms in Big Bang Theory. This time they're dressed up as Star Trek characters. Trekkies or Trekkers, the labels used to refer to Star Trek fans, given by others and by themselves, are probably one of the most recognizable fan cultures and one of the oldest to have organized themselves as a large and powerful community, holding large conventions worldwide and known for lobbying the creators and the studio that produced Star Trek to make additional series and films. In the description or below this video, I've provided another video clip you can watch of fan representations in popular culture. This one is from an older TV series called Night Court. Next, we're going to go through some vocabulary that you will encounter in Chapter 1 of your textbook. So first, let me ask you, what is a fan? What mental image comes to your mind when I say that word? Whatever you just thought of, hold that image in your mind because I want you to consider where that came from as we proceed through the subsequent vocabulary that I'm going to cover here and the concepts from Chapter 1. So in this class, we will define a fan as someone with a relatively deep, positive emotional conviction about a particular thing. In this class, we will define fandom as a way of identifying oneself on a deep level as being a fan and enacting that role. It does not necessarily have to be an active part of a participatory culture with other fans per se. It can be an individual or even closet fandom, a concept we will return to in the coming weeks. There are two paradigms or approaches of researching fans. Your book differentiates between these. So what is the difference? The first one is fandom research. I have grayed that out for a reason. It is the historical approach to researching fans that tended to pathologize them and stereotype them. The image you see here, by the way, is Beatles fans. So the second approach or paradigm for researching fans is the more recent method. It takes a more nuanced, complex, and sympathetic approach. When you think about research, you might imagine scientific experiments, but there is more than one style of research. Objectivity is the idea that universally agreed upon knowledge can be built from a seemingly impartial form of scholarly investigation. Most scientific research falls into that category. You have probably heard of the scientific method, for example. Participatory cultural research and, by extension, fan studies is subjective. This means that researchers acknowledge their position and their potential biases. So in this class, you will do this in both of your projects this term. So you probably have heard of the word agency, but it means something different in this context. Have you ever heard of the term agency when referring to audiences or fans or activists or any marginalized category of people? In media studies research, and by extension participatory culture research, and by extension fan studies, the concept of agency is opposite from or counter to a theory posed by Theodore Adorno, often referred to as the hypodermic needle model of media effects, which posits that media injects into us the effects it was designed to create. Instead, in participatory culture studies and fan studies, we say that people have agency. And by that we mean that the cultural members have power. So in this case, we're talking audiences, fans, participatory culture, members of any kind, are not necessarily injected or infected, right, by that hypodermic needle of media. People resist, they reinterpret, they refashion, as I've mentioned before, produce new content, and so on. This is how they have power. So agency then is the ability of individuals or groups to make a difference for oneself, for their group, their community, or for society in general. Another key term or vocabulary word that you'll see a lot this term, particularly in your textbook and by me, is celebrity. And this is defined as a form of social status that is conferred on a celebrated individual. Makes sense. In fan studies, we pay attention to this because the object of fandom matters too. Another key term or vocabulary word you'll see a lot this term is text. We all know what a text is, right? But in fan studies, we frequently call the object of fandom the text. This may seem a bit strange to you at first. So why do we do this? Well, literary studies was the source of inspiration for much of media studies. For example, you may have heard of famous directors of films, such as Alfred Hitchcock, being called auteurs, which is a French word for author. So in the case of a film or TV show, we would consider that to be the text that we study in media studies. And if we carry this forward into fan studies, in the case of the celebrity, Marilyn Monroe, she would also be considered a text because she is the object or focus of a particular fandom. So here is another vocabulary term for you. Your book frequently refers to cultural studies. I want to clarify what that really means. Despite its name, it's actually a humanities-focused brand of media studies. So why is this relevant to us? Well, it is the perspective from which fan studies emerged. It is also the perspective used most by me and your other communication professors here at EOU. You'll often hear it referred to as critical studies or the critical and cultural approach to communication studies. So that's it for our basic concepts for this week. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video, and if you have any questions about course content, assignments, or anything else about this class, please reach out to me through our Q&A discussion forum or via email. Have a great week.